Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are joining us from today. And thank you for coming to part two of our webinar series entitled Learn, Grow, and Develop a Curriculo Preview with ECPG. I'll be your moderator today. My name is Amanda Cavness. I'm from the United States, and I'm the ECPG chairperson of projects this year. I'm a clinical pharmacy specialist in pediatric hematology and oncology at Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters. Just some general information for you this morning. This webinar is being recorded and live streamed via YouTube. The recording will be available after the webinar on the website at www.events.fip.org in the member library. You can ask questions during the event using the question box provided, and we'll also be asking you to engage in some discussion via the chat. You are welcome to provide feedback about this event to webinars@fip.org. And if you are not already, you can become a member of FIP at the website listed below. I'd like to introduce to you today my co-moderator, Miss God's Gift Owendi from Nigeria. She's our ECPG Professional Development Coordinator, the founder of the P platform, and a Curriculo alumni. God's Gift is a graduate of pharmacy from the prestigious University of Port Harcourt in Nigeria. She's passionate about contributing immensely to public health and pharmacy profession in Nigeria and also globally. She has a passion for community service as evidenced by her volunteering work with various organizations, such as the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria's Young Pharmacist Group, International Pharmaceutical Student Federation, and FIP ECPG. She finished her National Youth Service Program at Pharmacy Council of Nigeria and is the founder of the mentorship program, the P platform for pharmacy students in Nigeria. Her hobbies include traveling, volunteering, and cooking. Thank you for joining us today, God's Gift. This is an overview of what today's program will look like. We'll do a brief review of part one of the webinar, and then you'll get to hear about some ECPG experiences with the Curriculo Pharmacist for the Future program. Then we'll do our Curriculo activity and open it up to question and answer and discussion. Here are your learning objectives for today. All right, here we have a QR code, and we'll put the link in the chat for part one of our webinar, which was entitled Opportunities for Personal and Professional Growth with ECPG. During this webinar, we talked about some of the resources that are available to you as a member, and those include things like our leadership development workshop that we host at FIP Congress. It is a 2-day event. Also, you could follow that up with the Leadership Development Program 2.0. We'll be putting calls out for that program later in the summer, and we expect the program to begin in October. We also have our career development toolkit that is available to you on the FIP website. There is a workbook there that goes along with it as well and has many resources for you. So I would really encourage you to go back and watch part one of the webinar if you weren't able to watch it prior to today. All right, now I'd like to introduce some other speakers that we have today, and they'll be leading us through our Curriculo activity that we're going to do towards the end of the session. So first we have Miss Karen Glenn. She is a member of the Institute of Leadership and Management and an associate member of the Community Learning Standards Council. Karen has a master's in human resource management from Strathclyde Business School and education background, and has been involved in designing and delivering innovative programs to help individuals transition from education to work and career transition initiatives. Karen has extensive experience as a line manager in the private and public sector. After graduating, she worked in various sales and business development roles within the pharmaceutical industry, and prior to Curriculo Solutions, she was the head of the careers at Skills Development Scotland. Karen's passion is in coaching individuals to reach their potential and developing initiatives to help them reach their goals and ambitions. Thank you for being with us today, Karen. And then also we have her partner, Mr. David Morrison, also a director at Curriculo. Mr. Morrison is also a member of the Institute of Leadership and Management and an associate member of the Community Learning Standards Council. David is a graduate of the elite Royal Air Force Officer Training College, Cranwell, and has a first-class honors degree in leadership and management and a distinction from the Association of the British Pharmaceutical Industry, and has over 20 years experience designing and delivering a range of training and coaching programs for a variety of clients across the globe, including aviation, logistics, hospitality, pharmaceutical, and the engineering industries. After graduating and specializing in trauma and emergency care, David served as an officer in one of the RAF's medical emergency response teams and has subsequently worked in other public and private sectors in line management roles from first line through to director level, and has commercial experience in senior sales roles and business development. His passion is in helping individuals and organizations to be professional, responsible, and effective line managers and leaders. Thank you for coming to the webinar today, David. Then finally, we have our guest speaker, Emanuela Nzerbe from Nigeria. She is our ECPG chairperson of public relations this year. She's a research assistant at the Nigerian Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development in Nigeria, and she is also a Curriculo alumni. And Ella, thank you for being with us today as well. So we'd like to start off this morning by doing a little bit of a discussion with our ECPG members who have previously completed the Curriculo Pharmacist for the Future program, so that you guys can get an idea of what it's like to complete this program and why it may be beneficial to you. So our first question, and this will be for God's Gift and Ella, the first question is, why did you sign up for the Curriculo Pharmacist for the Future program? What made you want to be part of this?
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you, Amanda. So I signed up for the Curriculo Pharmacist for the Future program because I'm always interested in anything that has to do with professional development, self-development. So I came across it on the ECPG group chat, and then I said, oh, let me just opt in for it. Let me see how I can learn more from this. So that's it for me.
All right, and Ella, what made you sign up for the program? I think you are on mute. We are not able to hear you right now.
Can you hear
me? Oh, yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, great. So for me, when it comes to anything professional development, I've always been interested in that. So I was also interested in growing in leadership, growing my leadership skills, getting better. And also another thing that stood out for me was that I was transitioning from clinical to research. And then when at that time, I think it was Louisa that posted it on the ECPG page, subcommittee page. And she mentioned that it was for people that are interested in professional development, leadership development. And I felt since I was transitioning from clinical to research, I think it was something that was good for me. I needed that guide on how best to go about it. So that was a major reason why I signed up at the time. Thank you.
So I would like to hear, what was your favorite part of the Pharmacist for the Future program? And we'll start with you this time, Ella.
So the favorite, I think I enjoyed every part of it though. But then one major part that actually stood out for me was, first off, how everything started. First off, it started with me understanding myself, learning about myself, my strengths, sometimes we don't get to, ask ourselves these difficult questions. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the things that you need to work on and all of that? So I love the transition from personal development, then to the behavioral or development, which I am focused more on how we deal with others, our ability to lead, ability to take up tasks and all of that. So there were questions that were guiding us each way. I think that was like the favorite part of it, and the favorite part of it for me. And then the second one was the part where I had to learn about how to go about interviews, whether it's for job or for anything. So those two were my favorite part.
And God's gift, what about you?
Okay, so for me, my first favorite part was the discussion aspect. So after each module, we're given a time in which we discuss with the organizers of the program in the person of Karen and David. So we got to discuss about the modules per time, how it relates to us, how we could get better, just basically how to develop ourselves more. And then being able to also communicate with other people in the team, people that are also participating in the program. So it's not just about a you team, it's about like a we team, the whole team spirit, and getting perspectives from different young people, just as you are, young professionals, early career pharmacists, just as you, just to see, okay, this is how it is, this is how these people do it this way, and how to just be better regardless of any situation or any circumstances we come across. So that was my first favorite part. So the second favorite part was some of the sessions which involved like somehow like icebreakers. So it was very interesting. There's some questions you have to go through, and then you have to think, did I really see the question correctly? Did I not? Just trying to test your focus, trying to test your level of what's the word I should use now? So just for you to basically test your level of focus, how if you're following the guidelines, yes, how you're following guidelines. And also, like Ella said, the other interesting part for me was the interview session, how to go about telephone interviews, how to go about virtual interviews, how to go about physical interviews. So all of that really made a lot of sense to me.
That's all really great information. Thank you. So what was one unexpected thing that you learned during the PFP? I think we all go into, leadership development things with a sort of a set idea in our mind of what the program will be like or what we're going to learn. So tell us about one thing that sort of surprised you from the program.
Okay, so one of the things that surprised me was the first module, which talked about the team strengths. So the team strengths normally would just be like, oh, the team strength has to be about you. But during that session, I discovered that you need to also know the team strength of individual members in your team. So it's not just about you, it's also about others. So just about carrying them along, as well as the whole cultural awareness of a team, because the world now is a global village, and you might be in a position in which you have to speak with people who are from different cultural backgrounds and how to manage all of that. So that was really the unexpected thing I learned from the program.
And Ella, what about you? We might be having technical difficulties again. So we are going to go to the next question. And then if we get Ella back, then she can jump back to this one with us as well. All right, God's gift. So why should other ECPG members sign up for the PFP?
Okay, so I would advise other ECPG members to sign up for it because it's going to build you self-development professionally, and for you to be a better person as an individual, as a leader, and even as a professional. Not just for you to like remain a local champion, for you to just have this low self-esteem kind of thing. So it's going to build your esteem and help you to better be ready for global stage.
And do you think that you had you previously been taught any of these skills or taught this material during your curriculum in school, or was this new information for you?
Sincerely, most of them were new information for me.
New information. That's great. I know, depending on where you go to school, even within the country, different universities have different curriculum and people are exposed to different things. So it's good that this program is really filling a gap that our members may not be getting somewhere else. All right, I'm going to check one more time and see if we have Elle back. All right, so I think we will go ahead.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, all
So
right.
sorry, I'm logging in
No,
with
you're
my
okay.
phone. Okay, because I had to I got a call. So I needed to I'm using my phone now, so you won't be able to see my face. So
That's all right.
I think around the time that I logged off, there was a question that you had asked. The previous question about the unexpected thing that I learned from
Yes.
PFE. Yeah, thank you. So I think one major thing that I feel that I learned, I didn't see that coming, was how to go about interviews. I thought it was all about leadership, because for stuff like interviews is not taught in pharmacy. It's not something that is not part of the school curriculum. You just go about learning every other thing about pharmacy, but you are not taught how to actually get the job, the dream job that you want. So I wasn't really expecting that the PFP would have this holistic thing about how to actually go for interviews, how to answer questions during interviews. So that was one thing that that I wasn't really expecting, but I saw it there and I was really happy to learn about it. And I'm even glad to say that it has actually helped me. If you remember, I mentioned earlier that I was really interested in transitioning from clinical to research. So it has helped me in getting the job that I have now. Then with the last question about why should ECPG members sign up for PFP, I think there are a lot of reasons ECPG members should join in. As early career pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists, we need guidance. We definitely need guidance in our career, and even if you don't have a mentor or something, PFP gives you that guidance, at least on the start, because first of all, it starts with the you knowing yourself and how your strengths, your weaknesses, places where you feel like you can work on yourself. Then it now, after talking about you, it now goes to talk about other people. How do you deal with other people? How do you relate with people in your team? Knowing yourself, because it's only when you know yourself that you go ahead to relate with other people, and by that extension, people from other countries and all of that. And then so PFP, it will give you that guidance before you not even start talking about other aspects of professional development. And then also it's also a good opportunity for you to also learn more on an international platform, like Gift mentioned earlier. Some of these things we were not taught in school. So for some of them, it was my first time learning about them. So I feel like this PFP would help everyone that is aspiring to grow in their career to, get better and better. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. The insight that you guys are able to share about your experiences has been really helpful. So I know it would make me excited to sign up for the program. So hope everyone on the call is feeling that way too. So let's go ahead, and I am going to turn it over to Karen, and we'll start doing a little bit of some Curriculo preview. You can see what it would be like if you were a participant in this program. So Karen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you also to God's Gift and to Ella for those very kind words. And good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to each of you. It's great to see a nice audience here, and I hope that we can bring you some information that entices you to come and work with us. It's my pleasure to deal with you today and to share some information about the Pharmacists for the Future programme, and also to tell you just a tiny little bit about Curriculo solutions while we are here. After I've done that, I will hand immediately over to my colleague David, who will run you through a little taster session so that you get a feel for the quality of the learning that you can expect from us. So our programme, our first programme with FIP is the Pharmacists for the Future programme, but it's not everything that we do at Curriculo. We are a professional training company based in Scotland in the UK, and we are passionate about helping individuals and organisations to reach their potential. We work in education, we work in the corporate world, in businesses, we work with professional sports people, and very importantly, we work with pharmacists across the world, and we've been very fortunate to do that, working in partnership with FIP. What is Pharmacists for the Future programme, and how did we get to where we are now? Well, it's lovely to hear what God's Gift and Ella have just told us, because in fact, what we have done is we've used much of our experience, my experience, David's experience, to build and curate a programme that we believe will set you up for a successful future. We've listened to our customers, people just like you, to find out what it is they do need. We've consulted with academia, academics, and we have clearly worked very closely with FIP and ECPG in order to make sure that the learning within our programme is mapped, one, to the FIP development goals and values, but it also aligns very clearly with the ECPG Career Development Toolkit. We're very fortunate that last year we were awarded the FIP Seal Award for the PFP programme, and indeed that has just been renewed. So we are very excited to be continuing this work with you. In addition to that, this programme is also approved via the Institute of Leadership, which is an accrediting body here in the UK. What can you expect from this programme? Just very briefly an overview. This programme is quite different to what you might have learnt previously. It is a professional development programme, but it's a programme that is integrated and holistic in its approach. We look at personal, social and professional development skills for pharmacists. On a personal level, we look at helping you to understand yourself a little bit more, and Ella mentioned that earlier. We look at your personal values, we look at your strengths and your limitations, your likes and your dislikes. On the social side, we look into the behaviours that you have, your behavioural style, and how that can impact both positively and negatively on people that you work with. We help you to understand how to build and to maintain a professional network that will support your career. We will help you to look to see how you can influence and how you can contribute in a team, and David will cover that off a little bit later. Importantly though, from a professional development perspective, we take both of those things and we help you to link and contextualise those skills so that you are able to demonstrate and articulate your unique value and characteristics when it comes to that interview and moving up the career ladder. This gives you, for those of you who didn't attend the session on the 6th, this gives you a broad overview of the content of the programme. In Module 1, we talk about the science of team working, and David is going to go into that in a little bit of detail in a second. In Module 2, we look at your personal ambitions. We start the process of your career planning. We look at employers' needs. We look at networking, professional networking capability, and also cultural awareness. In Module 3, we look at effective communication skills and the barriers to those effective communication skills. And then we start the process of building your personal brand matrix in a format and using themes that will help you to distill down your unique characteristics. In module 4, it's brilliant to hear God's Gift and Ella both mention the module around interview skills. We help you to figure out how to prepare for interviews, how to build your skills and how to practice for successfully going to and successfully and being successful during the interview process. We cover all of those skills with you. And finally, in module 5, there are 2 major things that you will do here. One, you will research your career plan 5 years from now. Where do you want to be? What is your ambition? And what are the skills you need to be able to do that? And then you will build your 5-year career plan based on that ambition and the content of that. There are 2 different ways that you can engage with the PFP. One, straightforward PFP program, which is purely self-directed learning. And secondly, you can do what we call the PFP Plus, which is self-directed learning supported by 1-hour online workshops at the end of each of the 5 modules. The trick is for you is to figure out which one suits you best. If you are an individual who likes to learn on their own, if you're someone that is not really that interested in hearing other people's views or opinions, or you don't really want to discuss concepts and theories around some of the learning within the module, then the totally self-directed version will be suitable for you. And that will cost you a discounted €50 for all of that learning. If, on the other hand, you're someone who likes to engage with people, you like to hear what other people have to say about some of the models and the skills, you like to discuss your opinion and what you do, then the self-directed plus online review sessions, that version of the PFP will be the most suitable for you. That way you will be able to join our 1-hour scheduled workshops at the end of each of our modules. And we will also ask you to join our WhatsApp group so that you can communicate freely with other people. And again, for that, this will cost you €65, just so that you've got a feel for what kind of discount that is. If you're not a member of FIP, then the self-directed version would cost you €200, and the version PFP Plus would cost you €250. So you can see that the team at FIP have negotiated a brilliant discount for all members. If you're interested in the PFP Plus, then these dates are important to you, and we will show you them again after David's presentation. But the next opportunity for you to join one of our scheduled cohorts will be on the 19th of July. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to David, who is going to give you a taster session on the science of team working. David, over to you.
Thank you, Karen, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. It's my pleasure to do a little taster from Module 1. As Karen's highlighted, it's called the Science of Team Working. And we heard from both God's Gift and Ella earlier about the positive benefits that they gain from this particular session. Now, I want to be really honest with you at this point and say that I have a really tough job here. To try to give you a flavour of this in the time that I have available is quite tough. However, I guess I'd like to start by suggesting to you that most of us work in teams, certainly across the professional world now. And it's very, very easy to put a group of people together and call them a team. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to work well together, either in terms of work tasks or in terms of the relationships within the team. Not all teams are necessarily harmonious in the way that they work. So this whole thing about team strength profiling, as a leader in a team environment, there are a couple of reasons why this session will be of benefit to you. The first thing is that the more self-awareness we have, so knowing how one would act and behave and operate within a team environment, is a good thing. The second thing is that understanding the motivations and the behaviours and the actions of other members of your team allows you to adapt and change your own behaviour ever so slightly in order to get better engagement with other people and get the best out of them. So self-awareness, building positive team working relationships, and if we have time, I will come back to say a little bit about how this might help you in recruitment within teams. All right, so the first thing I want to point out here,
David, you have accidentally muted yourself.
Can you hear me now? Okay. The first thing I want to point out here is that all of these so-called personality profiling tools or inventories, they all do very much the same thing. And they're designed to ask you a series of questions to try and determine how you would operate within a team. Our particular profiling tool is a hybrid model of things like Myers-Briggs and Belbin, but we find that it works particularly well for the team situations. So let me tell you a little bit about team roles. We have some of the members of the panel, and maybe some of you who are also listening in around the world at the moment, may have had the opportunity to complete the team strengths profile. And what that does is, based on your responses to those questions, it throws up a potential of 8 different profiles. So at the moment, all I want to point out to you is that you will be graded, if you like, on 2 main spectra. And if I point out this thing here, this is what we call a north and south spectrum. And you can see here at the northern end, we have something that's described as thinking or thinking ability. And I'm going to come back and explain that. The polar opposite on this spectrum is what's called feeling ability. And again, I'm going to come back and explain that. And then we have, if you notice here, we have a west and an east spectrum, a horizontal spectrum. At one end, degree of introversion, and at the other, degree of extroversion. So let me then show you what happens here is that when we talk about thinking profiles generally describe people who are reasonably analytical in the way that they do things, the way that they make decisions and that they process before decision making. They are, by contrast, not particularly naturally people friendly. And I'm hoping that you understand what I mean by that. I'll bring this a bit more to life as we move on. The polar opposite is those of you who would recognize that you are naturally more people focused. So a little bit more naturally sociable, friendly, talkative, inclusive. So that's the north-south spectrum. The east-west spectrum. Now, you're all intelligent people listening in today, so I don't want to be teaching you to suck eggs, but essentially the difference between introversion and extroversion is that more introvert people are a little bit quieter potentially, don't say as much, a little bit slower paced, and by contrast, extroverts draw their energy from being around other people. So they're a little bit louder, a little bit faster, more expressive. So when you do the team strengths profile within module 1, your answers will give you a profile based on your affinity, if you like, with each of these spectra. And so within our model, we have potential to have 8 different profiles, and you can see them listed here. And let me further then take this and show you that in terms of the team strengths profile, I want to point out a couple of key points here before I go into this a bit more. I want to be very clear about the fact that regardless of your profile, it's not a fact that any one is better than the other 7. They are just each a little bit slightly different. And for those listening in who have not completed the team strengths profile, what I'm going to ask you to do is, when I start to look at a few of these profiles and describe behaviours and characteristics, I want you to think about, of course, yourself and whether the characteristics are descriptive of you. That's a good thing to do. But also, I would encourage you to think about those with whom you work, particularly in a team setting, or it could be your boss, or indeed in clinical practice, you could relate this to patients with whom you interact regularly. So it's also highly likely that when I look at, or you look at the 8 profiles, each of us are always able to see a little bit of ourselves in terms of characters and behaviours in each of the 8 profiles. But what I'd like you to focus on is, when I describe a particular profile, if you can identify, say, with 60 to 65, 70% of the descriptors, that gives you a good idea that you're in the sort of correct area. And the last key point is, remember, they're all just slightly different. Not one is better than the others. So be comfortable with your own profile. And we're going to look at some of the inherent strengths of each of these profiles and limitations. So here is what we call our wheel of team strengths profiling. And you can see now that I've put the 8 names. So this is visionary, challenger, chairperson, etc., on this wheel arrangement. So we have thinking profiles up here, and I'm going to explain that a bit more. Feeling or people-oriented profiles, introvert profiles here, and these profiles are by nature slightly more extrovert. Now, sadly, we do not have time in this session to go through each of the 8 profiles. But I don't think that's necessary anyway. I think what I would like to do is give you a snapshot, if I may, of the 4 what we call polarized areas. So we'll look at the visionary, then we'll look at the supporter. These are polar opposite. Then we can look at the perfectionist and the chairperson. And what I really want to do here is describe the characteristics and behaviours in a team environment of each of these 4. If we have a little bit of time towards the end, we can share a bit more information about some of the intermediary points. But you see, before I go into the profiling itself of these 4, if you, for example, your profile suggests that you're a visionary, you will also share a little bit of the characteristic of the challenger and the analyst, because they are next door neighbours. Similarly, if your profile is a supporter, you will share a little bit of the characteristics with your neighbours here. What's really important to point out is that regardless of your score, you cannot possibly be a visionary and a supporter. They are far too different. You cannot be, regardless of what your scoring says, a perfectionist and a chairperson, because they are vastly different. Okay, so let me show you how this works then. And let's focus on this first profile, which is called the visionary. Now, you can see, forgive me if I go back here, you can see visionary, it's midway between what we would call introvert and extrovert characteristics. So when it's in the middle, we describe that character as an ambivert profile. And that gives rise to particular traits and behaviours, particularly in a team setting. So it's ambivert, but it's a thinking profile. So these are people that you would recognise in your team environment who are, we describe them as fairly individualistic. So what I mean by that is that they are generally people who don't mind working on their own. In fact, for most of the day, they could work on their own and be quite happy to do that. They don't necessarily need the interaction of other people. They are generally very good at problem solving. They are critical thinkers. And in a team environment, this is the balance between introversion and extroversion. These are people that you might recognise in your team who will sit and listen to conversations, not contribute an awful lot initially, but eventually they will come up with a solution to your problem or have an idea, and then they will contribute. When I go on to the more introvert profile, you'll see that these, because they're more introvert, may be in your meeting, have fantastic ideas or a solution, but they don't readily or necessarily share it with other people. So let's have a look at this visionary a little bit more. Some typical characteristics: a real need for perfection, high degree of intellect, but because of that, they are also people that you may recognize who disregard protocol. So, in other words, they have this belief that they know how to do things better or faster or quicker or to a better standard. So they can often disregard rules and regulations. Let's see, if we didn't do the questionnaire scoring, how would you recognize this person? Well, this is an individual. In almost all of your dealings with them, they appear to be reasonably formal. What I mean by that is business-like. So they will ask direct questions. They don't express, or they don't show too much by way of emotion. They keep themselves fairly formal and business-like. Low physical contact. This would be an individual who would keep a little bit of distance. They are not the type of person, for example, who would bounce into your workspace, put a hand on your shoulder and engage you in small talk. They generally dislike that, so they wouldn't do that. So that's what we mean by formal and business-like. But look, particular strengths in a team: they're great at solving problems. They are clinical and thorough. They explore things before making a decision. And in teams, from time to time, that's a fantastic skill set to have. Like each of these profiles, however, they also have some potential, what we call weaknesses. So this particular profile, the visionary, they can be a little bit critical or impatient of others. So, for example, because they function at a highly intelligent level, they are very fast thinkers. They could, for example, be a little bit blunt or a little bit cold with other people who may not understand things as quickly as they do. So I hope that makes sense. And I'm going to show you some contrast shortly. Now, here is the rule that we give to people all the way through. If you are this profile, you recognize that you're a visionary type profile. If you are engaging with another visionary type person, you will probably have a degree of connection without too much difficulty. It will be more natural. The problem comes when you are a visionary and you're trying to engage with someone who is complete opposite. So the rule that we use here is that to engage with someone, we behave more like that person while we're dealing with them. So let's imagine that you are this visionary character. I am something else. For me to make a connection with you, what I need to do is when I'm with you, I behave more like you, more disciplined, more formal, more business-like, and that will allow me to connect with you. Now watch this. Let's say, and I'm going to show you the contrast, let's say I am the polar opposite. I am the supporter, which we'll come on to in a minute. These are the natural characteristics of a supporter. But if I behave like this around you as a visionary, there is a mismatch. And it sounds crazy. So what I need to do is more of this and be less friendly, less supportive, less personal when I'm dealing with you. Now, I'm very conscious that you don't have the ability to speak to me at the moment. I want to try and crack on a little bit and show you the polar opposite here, because we don't have time to do all of these. But let me show you the supporter. It's the opposite of the visionary that we've just looked at. So this time, again, it's ambivert, it's in the middle, but this time we have a profile which is naturally people-oriented. So this type of individual is all about people. It's about having positive relationships. And these things are all good, but one of the downsides is that these people naturally find it difficult to take back some control. So when people are not doing what you need them to do in the right way, I'm not suggesting that you won't do it, but there's an emotional component. It can be quite difficult to take people to task. Let's have a look at some other characteristics. And I'm hoping here you see how different this is to the visionary that we've just looked at. So look, much more naturally people-oriented. They are good at dealing with difficult people, just simply because they have well-developed communication skills. They generally work hard to integrate people. So let me give you a quick example here. If I was adding someone to my team, a good type of person to pair the individual up with for the first period of time would be a supporter type profile, because they will look after the new member of the team. They will share information. They will make sure that they are okay. I'm going to be a little bit flippant here, so forgive me, but it makes the point. If I introduced a new member of the team and paired them up with, say, a visionary type person for the first period of time, the person might resign from the team within the first couple of months because the supporter won't go out of their way to communicate readily, to share information, etc., etc. Let me show you how different this is again to the visionary. Look, high physical contact. These are the people in your work environment who will come in, give you a hug if they believe you need a hug, whether you believe it or not. They will be very personal in their discussions with you, much more expressive, etc., etc., etc. So I'm hoping you can see very quickly how different that is to the visionary profile. But these people are also good to have in your team because they support other members. They are very loyal to the team. They help the communications between the team, etc., etc. The downside is, now I'm not suggesting that any of us likes stress, that would be crazy, but they're just a little bit more emotional and they feel things much more quickly than some of the other profiles. They can use in a leadership position, because they are naturally people-oriented. Sometimes other people can take advantage of what they might see as this person's good nature. That would be a better way to describe this. Okay, so if we recognize that the individual is a supporter type profile, the way we get better connection is by behaving more like them when we're around them and less like this. So you can see if I was the visionary, and this is my natural style, actually, if I'm leading this and I recognize I'm dealing with a supporter, it's quite a tough thing, but I need to be less like I would be naturally and more like this individual. All right, I'm super conscious. I want to very quickly show you these two here, perfectionist and chairperson. So let me show you chairperson. And what you can see here with chairperson is that it's clearly an extrovert profile. This time balanced between thinking and feeling. So these are people who have a strong basic dominance. They enjoy organizational objectives, KPIs, key performance indicators, targets, goals, etc., etc. So look at how this is, again, is slightly different in terms of characteristics and behaviors to the two that we've just looked at. So lots of energy, generally positive. Don't need anyone else to tell them what to think and what to do, but not natural administrators. So these people, because they are extrovert, often don't take time. They will do administration, paperwork, because it's part of the job, but they generally, if they had a choice, they would rather someone else did that. How do you recognize them? Look at this. This is all driven by the extrovert side of the nature. Fast pace, they will often respond quickly if you ask a question. They often interrupt. They like to just tell people what their opinion is, whether you want to know it or not, a little bit louder, etc., etc., etc. I want to be super careful with this. Generally, these people are not trying to appear as being aggressive, but imagine someone who is quieter, more introvert, which we'll have a look at in a moment, this person can appear a little bit more aggressive, just too loud, too opinionated. That's really what we're talking about. Great to have in a team because they make sure that the team hits targets, gets things done, achieves goals, and all of that is really, really good. They are often described as glass half full people. So they are optimistic. So they can often overcommit people to objectives that maybe are a little bit too demanding. Because they're fast-paced, they get bored easily. So if we have anyone listening in at the moment who recognises that they are this profile, their internal mechanism is probably screaming at the moment to say, David, talk faster, we've got the idea, let's get moving, get on with it, etc., etc. So if we're dealing with a chairperson, we just behave a little bit more like them, look enthusiastic, fast, etc., 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 and less slow-paced, cautious, etc., etc. These behaviours around this individual will drive this individual crazy because it's too slow for them. Okay, let me show you then if I've got time to fit in the contrast.
David, we have 2 minutes.
Right, okay. So the opposite, perfectionist here, very quickly. So let me show you this. Introvert as opposed to extrovert. I'm just going to show you the differences here. This person is driven by doing things for the organisation. They're not really about self-promotion. They are quite often described as steady people. They often don't get the credit they deserve within organisations or teams because they don't draw attention to themselves. Have a look here at some of the characteristics. These are driven by the introvert side of the nature. And I'm hoping that you can see the contrast here, how the chairperson, much more extrovert, there could be potential conflict with this individual and vice versa. Good to have in a team because they are methodical, they carry on, they don't break the rules, they follow protocol. But because of that, they are low risk takers, etc. Engaging with this person, be more like this and less like that. Okay, so there are 4 other profiles there that, of course, we don't have time to go into, but I'm hoping I've given you a flavour for it. And the whole idea here, if I summarise, is understanding your own profile, recognising the advantages that your strengths with that profile will give you in a team environment, and also recognising some of your limitations, and then being able to make some adjustments. The key thing is, if you're leading in this team environment, is to recognise also where other team members are and being able to adapt your behaviour to engage to get the best out of others. And I'm really sorry that I've had to speed up a little bit there. I sincerely hope that I've given you a flavour of some of that learning, and I hope that you will take the opportunity to join us to explore this later on within the programme. And we can talk about national cultural elements that come into play as well. So I'm going to be quiet now and pass back, I believe, to Amanda. And forgive me, Amanda, if I've been too fast there. I'm conscious of the time.
No, that's great. Thank you so much, David. That was really enjoyable. So I will kick it off with some of the questions that we have. So the first question is a really great one. It says, when team strength seems to negate one's own interest, will it be polite for one to try and convince the team as a group or to pull out of the group? What would you say about that, David?
David,
sorry, yeah, I would say I would really like to explore that further at another opportunity with the whole idea of negating one's own interests. I guess the thing about a team environment is that it's about the interests of the objectives of the organisation, and the team should be part of that. If we're so the objectives are one thing. If we're talking about your own interests in terms of differences of opinion, of course, certain situations will dictate that even as the leader, you can listen to other people, but you might have to be quite dictatorial, and that might be the right thing to do and say, having heard other people's opinions and styles, this is what we're going to do for these reasons. At other times, of course, it's much, much more appropriate to put one's own preferences on the back burner for the benefit of the team. It's a very difficult one to answer quickly and succinctly, because there are, as you all know, there are a myriad of factors that would come into play there. So sometimes it might be more appropriate to defer and go with the team. At other times, it's much more appropriate to be able to stick to your guns. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Yeah. All right, Karen, we have a question that says, I'm a final year student. Can I sign up too? I believe that the answer is, as long as you are a member of FIP ECPG, that yes, you are able to sign up. Is that the right answer?
And we would encourage you to right at the start of your career, or just as you're about to transition into the workplace. This is a perfect program just to set you up. So yes, please do join us.
All right, another question just came in. How does a team leader who may not be a chairperson in terms of these attributes lead effectively, especially if other members of the team have better qualities in leading?
Well, that's a great question. I guess trying to be succinct again here, once you understand how this works, it would really be about, again, deferring responsibility for particular decisions or tasks to allow those who have more natural strength in a particular area to be able to do their best for the team. That would be a key thing there. Sorry, Amanda, just run the question again. There's something else that I thought was important, but I've forgotten the question.
Yes. How does a team leader who may not be a chairperson in terms of these attributes lead effectively, especially if other members of the team have better qualities in leading?
Yeah, there's some interesting research recently which actually shows that more extrovert leaders perform as a team better when they have a bigger collection of more introvert team members. But the opposite is also true. There are some fantastic, more introvert team leaders who, understanding how they operate, can have a bigger collection of more extrovert personnel within the team. But the whole thing is about balance and having a collection of each of these profiles. If we had more time, and when you join us on the programme, hopefully, I can again show you that in teams of about 12 to 15, of about that size, I'll share some of the research and tell you what the correct mix and makeup of each of the profiles would be.
We have had a question about getting the slides. So I'm not sure, Karen or David, if we would be able to share any of these. Obviously, they could go back and watch the recording again. But to answer your question, that may be something that we have to get to you later. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the first thing is have a look at the recording and then come back to if that's not good enough. Because remember, what we're showing you here today is just a tiny little snippet of the whole module. So you won't really get a feel for the whole module until you participate in that module, if that makes sense. So this is just a tiny little bit of that. So have a look and then come back to us and let us know. Does that answer that, Amanda?
Yes, I think that's great. So I have a quick question. I completed the team strengths profile, and I think often when we do these types of activities, we get results that sort of surprise us. So, one of my scores was higher, but seemed to be very different. Like, I view myself very differently of what David is describing. So what would you say about this? Am I really more like my scores? Should I redo this team strengths profile when I've had more sleep and coffee? What do you guys think about conflicting scores?
Yeah, I think one of the key things, Amanda, is not to be overly focused on the scores. The scores give you an idea where you might want to look in terms of profile, but it's much more about the descriptors that I was trying to go through there. So if you look at, we can all see a little bit of ourselves in every profile, I promise you that. But if you're looking at the characteristics and the behaviours and you say, well, you know what, if I'm being honest, and sometimes it's difficult on your own, sometimes you might need to seek some feedback and be prepared for open feedback from other people, to almost acting like a mirror, because you might think, well, no, I never behave like that, and one of your colleagues might say, well, actually, Amanda, let me tell you here, yeah, and here's an example. So being open to feedback and looking at if 65–70% of the descriptors you can say are meaningful for you, then that's more important than the score. But we have an accuracy rate, just very quickly, with the scoring mechanism here of about 70% in that order. That's actually quite good for answering seven questions.
Great. All right. Well, I think our time is up for the day. So I'm going to go through our final slides here. So if you are interested, Karen, do you want to do this last slide here?
Yeah, please do join us. If you need more information, then if you can screenshot the QR code on the left. If you'd like to enroll with us in the PFP, then we'd love to see you. The next cohort that is looking at PFP Plus starts on the 19th of July, and we'd love for you to join us in that one, or the following one, which is, roughly speaking, our start dates are every third Wednesday in the month. So please do join us, enroll, find out some information. You will see in the chat box that I have left the Curriculo Solutions website and my email address. We would love to hear from you if you're even thinking about it, but you can very quickly get online and join us as soon as you can. We'd love to see you.
And God's Gift has also placed the actual web links for the two programs in the chat box for you as well.
Well, thank you.
And I would really encourage you all to take advantage of this opportunity that we have for ECPG members. You can check out all future FIP digital events here at the link seen below. I hope that many of you will be joining us at FIP Congress in Brisbane, Australia in September. I know I'm very much looking forward to that. And we hope that you'll follow us on social media. All of our handles are listed here below. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, as well as the Curriculo team. And you can find them on those same social media channels using these names here. That is all that we have for you today. If you have any questions or would like to provide feedback about the webinar directly to ECPG, our email is listed here. And if you're not yet a member but want to join and would love to take advantage of this program, you can scan the QR code or visit the link in the chat box to become a member of FIP. And we hope that we see you on future digital events and that you will engage with ECPG. Thank you all very much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Amanda.